Hey guys, it's your girl Eda, also known as the CEO Paralegal, author, legal consultant, legal educator, and of course, your host of the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Join in on the fun by downloading, subscribing, and sharing our content. If you would like to take your support further, we now have Let's Talk Paralegal podcast subscription boxes. So, what are you waiting for? Hit pause, share, and subscribe now. In this episode, I speak with Ryan McKeen, an advocate and attorney for better training and support in the legal industry. We speak about the future of legal and the essential role of ongoing professional development. Listen in for more. Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. I'm your host, Eda Rosa, and today I have Ryan with me, and we're going to talk about a topic that I know oh too well. I understand the importance of it. I've actually seen the results on hand, firsthand, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about what I do, what Ryan does, and maybe just powwow some new ideas in the conversation. Who knows? We're going to see where this conversation leads us. But before we get into the topic today, Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about you, about your company, and kind of, where this idea sparked and go from there?
Etta, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really grateful to be here and talk with you and your audience. I am a lawyer. I have practiced law for 19 years at this point. I've had everything from a general practice to a solo practice, and ultimately, most recently, I scaled up a personal injury practice from really just 2.5 people up to close to 40 people. So I've experienced all this growth and the challenges that come along with it, the building a team, the building systems. And, with my firm, I kind of achieved everything that I wanted to achieve and more. Like I'd set out to do it. I had always wanted to be a teacher. I had always worked with firms around the country through working at Lawyerist, and I really loved the idea of helping lawyers and helping law firms. So I look at my career in eras, and really, like my first era was learning how to be a lawyer. My second era was learning how to run a business. And now I feel like my third era is really teaching. And so it's from that basis that Best Era was formed. It was formed with some of my former colleagues at the firm, Brittany Green, who handled marketing, Allison McKeen, who handled operations and finance, and Marissa Rua, who was one of our paralegal case managers. So we all came over, and what we're hoping to do and what we're doing is taking the lessons that we've learned, creating products, and really trying to help lawyers, law firms, paralegals grow to the best of their potential because this kind of work is hard.
It is hard. And I think actually now my mind is clicking. I think we spoke about Melissa, your paralegal, right, in our pre-call. And you started talking about how the importance of the communication and everything and getting everybody together, if I'm not mistaken. That was our conversation. But today we're going to talk about the importance of building a team, right? And how that works and how important it is. Because I know firsthand that even if you invest in all the marketing in the world, even if you invest in, these fancy tools and everything for your law firm, the implementation part is where it's actually necessary, right? And who implements that is your staff, right? They're the ones that are going to implement, they're the ones that are providing your customer service. So really the training is the most important in understanding that they're the ones that are actually going to implement all these pretty little things, right?
That's so spot on. And really, when you think about this, right? Like, look, I've been a business for a long time. I've owned multiple businesses, and I can let you and your audience in on a little secret that there's almost no problems in business that can't be solved with great people having the tools that they need to do their jobs, right? That's so simple what I just said. But you can strip away fancy tools. You can strip away uh, complicated systems, if you have the right people in the right seats doing what they love to do, aligned with a common goal, things take care of themselves, right? But that is so much easier said than done, for a host of reasons. So really the challenge for law firms as they scale, look, the reason firms do marketing is because it works. And okay, that's like, 1/5 of the problem of any firm is marketing and case acquisition. But so okay, you start acquiring cases. Well, guess what? You have legal and ethical obligations, and business obligations to serve those clients and serve them well. And as you grow, look, most of paralegal lawyer relationships, like it's one to one, right? You have the lawyer who's had their paralegal for 20 years, and they've grown up, and this paralegal's my right hand. You hear that kind of talk. But as you grow a firm, like that breaks down. Like you and your paralegal can only handle so much. So you've got to depend upon a whole host of people to deliver services at the level, if not above, what you were capable of delivering them. And that's the opportunity.
Absolutely. And it's a process, right? So like going back to the industrial era, the very simplistic facts and the very things that they go into place, right? When we were building a car, you had one specific person putting in, the wheel on the car. Then you had one specific person doing this, right? So sometimes we are so segmented, right? When it comes to the actual processing and everything of the actual case management, right? Because at the end of the day, we're managing cases, we're strategizing cases, but we're also providing those services to our communities, which I think that's where we as legal professionals often miss the mark, right? We miss the mark on actually providing those type of services to these communities that we love to serve. And we get so monotone, right? It's so like mundane sometimes, and it's all about tasks, all about focusing on the deadlines. And then I think training sometimes also allows us to kind of branch out and open our minds and bring in new perspectives, right? Because with training, you're learning more about your staff, which is needed, right? We need to know more about the human behind the skills and the education, but it also helps the team learn about each other, right? So then let's move from the industrial era, and I like to use football, even though I don't know much about football, but football does a really great team building, right? It's a very great team building. It's like you need every single player in order to win the championship. There's not one player that's not needed, right? And so if everybody's putting their part into it, then you're going to win more cases, right? You're going to have more efficiency. You're going to relieve all the bottlenecks, and it's going to be a lot smoother ride. But the best part about it is you can go on vacation without having to worry about anything. You can have that balance, right, between life and life at the office and life in your personal, right, your personal life, and have your builds, whatever it is that you want to build on the side. Like you were just saying, you have your law firm, but you also have other things going on, and that can only be possible by implementing and training, right? That's the only way that you're going to be able to do it, because you're not going to be able to be all places at once, right? And I think sometimes we miss that. We miss that.
Etta, that there was so much there, and I hope your audience plays that back, like hit the rewind button several times, because I think you touched on so many very important things in what it is that you just said. One of the things that I picked up on was that, look, like when you're untrained, when you have people who are untrained, right? It is in, so much of their energy goes to anxiety of oh my gosh, am I doing it the right way? I don't know if I'm doing it the right way. Am I messing up? I mean, I love to read paralegal Reddit, because it's like I can't sleep because I fear that I did this, and I mean all of these things that are just areas for improvement, right? So if you start giving your team a base that they can build on of here's how to do it, here's what our feedback is, here are different trainings, here are different resources, here are different systems, here is our onboarding process. And if you start doing those things, right, that allows them to do all the basic things. It moves up the starting line for them. And then they can do things like better serve and engage the community, which is the whole reason as to why you exist in the first place. Like, you don't have a job to, you don't have a job because somebody needs you to get their medical records. Like, that's not why you have a job. You have a job because you have a real life person behind a problem who needs help. And so your job is to deliver help. And the task that you have to accomplish to get there is to request the police report.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think maybe, and this is kind of what I hear from my clients, is finding the time to do all of this, right? Which is where kind of like you and I come in, right? Finding the time to actually create these processes, think about it, right? Because we as a staff, right? Or whomever, vendors, servicers, we can't read your mind, right? We don't know what's up there. We don't know what that vision is. We don't know what that strategy is until you actually put it on paper, right? And so finding that time, right? And finding the balance is, I guess, their first hurdle, right? When it comes to this process, right? So maybe you can give us a little more insight as you are a lawyer and run your own firm and do the education. Maybe you can give us more perspective on that avenue.
Yeah, I mean, a few things is that the very basics are that most law firms, um, they're not businesses that deliver legal services. Like, it's not that way. It's not like CVS where you're a business that delivers, healthcare or pharmaceutical products, right? It is a business that has some annoying admin functions that lawyers and whatever have to deal with. And the flip of it is that you have an actual business that delivers legal services. Okay. So it's a very minor distinction, but I think an important one in terms of how these things operate. So as a result of that basic premise, most firms are undercapitalized. They're tight on cash. Most people in law firms are overworked. They're taking on too much. Hiring deeply lags demand. So people hire reactively and not proactively. And so the amount of bandwidth that is in a firm to invest in training, invest in people, it's the thing that doesn't get done. It is like the urgent tasks of the day: respond to this client, file this, call the clerk, all of these sorts of things that need to be done. The urgent takes away from the important. And so when you're doing that, what really happens is you start to underperform. You start, because your people are overburdened and undertrained. Um you start to lose good people. And you start to lose people in general. People who may have been coachable are suddenly not. And so you hear law firm owners just saying, can't find good people. Well, okay. I want to say that most people that I have hired and employed, which is probably close to like 70, are people who want to do a good job, who are good. Like, there's definitely been one or two where it's like, really? But most people they take some level of pride in their work. Okay. But you have to give them the tools necessary to succeed. And that includes an investment of time and money into their training to allow them to perform up the level. And what I sort of mean by this is, right now in the personal injury space in particular, like, there's a lot of change that goes on, a lot of technological change, right? And I would say that, paralegals tend to fall into almost two buckets, right? You have people who have been there for 30 years, they have a way of doing it, and it's their way and it's worked. And that can make it hard for them sometimes, not always, to adapt to the technological change. you also have new people who are entering the profession, who are entering from maybe food service or retail or some other career who are like, this is a better opportunity for me, right? And, in both instances, uh, uh, change management, education, feedback, are investments in your firm that pay massive, massive dividends over time.
Mm.
Are you a law firm owner juggling family life and business management? Do cash flow issues, high turnover, and untrained staff leave you feeling overwhelmed? It's time for change. Introducing Eda Rosa LLC, your go-to partner for law firm operations management and staff training. With over 2 decades of experience, we specialize in helping law firm owners create efficient, profitable, and well-trained teams. From tailored staff training programs to bilingual solutions, we help bridge the gap between attorneys and their teams, making your firm run smoothly while you focus on what matters most. At Eda Rosa LLC, we believe in transforming the legal industry from the inside out. Let's work together to build the law firm you've always dreamed of. Ready to take control of your law firm success? Visit www.edarosallc.com today.
I love it. I know. And I think it's finding the time, right? Take the time to find the time. I know it sounds like redundant, but sometimes you need to, right? I mean, you have to. It should be a priority, right? This is something that should be done. This is something that we need to focus on. And sometimes a lot of people don't see it as a priority. They want to invest more in marketing. They want to invest more in, fancier tools that can automate and do and integrate and do all the things. But all that goes in vain when people are not guided, right? They're not knowing what they need to do with these tools, or they weren't part of the process. And they're like, okay, well, we had this system, now we have this system, so now what do you want us to do, right? It's just kind of like thrown in, and it's like, okay, sink or swim, here you go. Or the number one culprit that I always see is they take their best producer to train them.
Yes. Oh, that is the biggest mistake that firms make. Like I mean, like you mentioned uh, uh okay, we could talk even outside of sports because sports references sometimes get lost. I think I'm gonna go big. You don't take Taylor Swift off the microphone to have her train backup dancers. You don't do that. Like you want Taylor on that microphone singing and dancing and inspiring the fans and all the things that she does so well. You want her doing that. You definitely don't want her training backup dancers. And I'm not saying that paralegals are backup dancers, but in this context, you have somebody who's new to it. You don't want to take your best person off your cases. It gets to me what occurred to me in all of this as a lawyer and struggling with this opportunity, despite knowing all of this and wanting to do it, and trying to do it and building out a private wiki where we had 800 pages and building out Tranual where we had we were working on an onboarding and building out feedback systems, is that this is an area where you know whether look like I don't view anybody as competition, but this is an area where if you can't get to it, right, put some money behind it, and have somebody help you do that or do that for you or do most of it for you. Um, because you can only show what matters in this world two different ways, really. What's on your calendar and what is on what you spend your money on. That's like a
Yeah.
grand total. In most firms, training is not on their calendar. Training is not something they pay for. But or they do it erratically. They say, okay, we're gonna have a lunch and learn, right? And they
Yeah.
do it
Or
one or
team
2 months.
building.
They do it 1 or 2 months and then they stop. So it needs to be a continual process. And look, like what we're talking about is somewhat new to legal, but I've worked in other businesses and other industries where they spend weeks training you before you get on the job floor. Um,
Yes.
and in paralegal work, legal support staff work broadly, like it's like, here's your files, go. And like what? I mean, talk to you look at different things, like you look at like the biggest employer on the planet, the US Department of Defense. What do they do? Boot camp. What do they do? If you've known anybody in the National Guard, what do they do? Monthly drill. I mean,
Mhm.
and but your law firm should somehow be exempt from training.
I mean, you
You know,
practice before every game, you practice before every
well,
performance. Like,
yep,
it has to be a
yep,
continuous thing, right?
yep, yep, yep. So it has to be. Eda?
I'm here.
Oh, did I lose you? No, it has to be a continuous, ongoing thing. And also, like, things change all the time. The speed of change right now is incredibly rapid. There's lots of software development. There's lots of client expectations that are changing. There's lots of better ways to do things, and it really does require an ongoing investment. And also too, like, even your advanced paralegals, right? Like, so, Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, to go to football references. And if you don't know Tom Brady, hands down, the best football player of all time, greatest quarterback,
No
seven Super
dispute.
Bowls. No dispute. Up until the end of his career and every day in between, Tom Brady worked with a coach one on one, in addition to his coaching staff and his team at the Patriots or the Buccaneers. He worked with a coach seeking to improve. So don't think just because somebody's super competent that you should stop investing in their skills. In fact, if you want to go forward, you should absolutely continue to invest in their skills, because if you can take somebody who's very good and make them great, that's a huge plus to your firm and your clients.
Absolutely. I talk about this all the time with my clients
Yeah.
personally with the continuing legal education, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
when you're continuing education and you're doing all the things, it's like, well, that comes at a cost. So why don't you bring in someone that can provide them those, continuing legal education while actually understanding that. You know what I mean? And everybody benefits from it. You get your CLE, you get your CLE, you get your CLE. It's like Oprah.
Yes. Yeah, and it's really, I mean, it's really about ultimately serving clients better, having a less stressful, healthier work environment. Because just dumping things on people and then criticizing them for not working out. I mean, like, let's talk about that, because, I feel like the dirty secret in the whole profession is that paralegals, who are by and large women, are completely discarded and abused in this process. Oh, something didn't go right. It's the paralegal's fault. Let's fire the paralegal. Let's go. Let's get another paralegal. And so, like, the amount of turnover and sudden firings and outbursts directed at paralegals, like, that has a real human consequence to it. That can do damage to self-esteem. That can, I mean, it's just bad. It's toxic, and it doesn't have to be that way. And really, when you start looking at the problem systemically, like, it's most of the time, like, it's not the paralegal. Most of the time, it is a situation that they have been put in. It is the firm being poorly managed. It is unrealistic or unattainable expectations. And it is being over capacity. Like, you're setting somebody up to fail, and yet, like, look, if you set them up to succeed, if you flip that, just flip that switch, like, at the end of the day, law firms are businesses, and businesses exist to make money. They do it by serving people. like you will make more money. I mean, gosh, there's gobs of data that talk about the cost of losing employees and employee turnover. And, if you're out there and you're listening and you're a lawyer, please like think about the amount of time and money you spend to hire people. It is very bad when you are just constantly in that cycle every 6 months.
Absolutely. And the
Yeah.
when you talk a lot about firing, right? Well, that right there costs you about 6 months of that salary. Whatever you were paying that person, that loss cost you at least 6 months of that salary. So why not invest it in training versus just throwing it away, right? Because I mean, it only makes sense here, I think, anyway.
No, it makes a ton of it makes a ton of sense out of and and if you start looking at some of these like law firm reviews, they're like, I give it 1 star because I had a case for a year and I had 6 case managers. Like that is a bad look on a firm. Like that is a show that is incredibly poor marketing.
Yeah,
Where, if you can't keep people who like, and these are people maybe clients liked or grew to trust, like that is really bad. And you start seeing this in reviews where it's like, I was passed around, I never knew who was handling my case. Like that is, so you've spent all this money to go acquire cases, and yet you're costing yourself money, you're doing yourself reputational harm, all because you're not willing to invest time or money into bringing people up to level. And like, let's face it, I don't think that the practice of law is rocket science. Like I just don't, like, it's not, we're not landing rockets on Mars, and we're not doing these things, right? So it's not like, firms need to invest in $10 million training programs. Like it's not that at all. Like the fruit is so low hanging, but you have to intentionally make it. You have to
absolutely.
intentionally pick it.
I agree 100%. And the thing is that sometimes they don't see it that way though, right? Sometimes they're so busy or they make all these excuses because we love doing that, right?
Yeah.
Any human being and any big goal, like we said, all these main goals. I was talking about this with one of my colleagues the other day about how we set all these goals like at the beginning of the year, and then like when you review it at the end of the year, it's like, what really did you accomplish, right? And it's because I don't have enough time, or it costs too much money, or I don't have, people to help me out, or this and that. And then you just make all these excuses, right? And then the next year goes around and you don't do it. And then the next year comes around and you don't do it. So one day you can't, right? You can't do it. And so it's like, when is that going to stop, right? When are we going to see the importance, and when are we going to see the relevance and the impact that it's making? Because we're not, these are people that are actually handling their clients, right? These are the people that are communicating, kind of like what you were saying with the reviews and everything. They are your customer service. So why are you not investing in your most valuable asset at the firm? You know what I mean? Like I'm not understanding where we're missing the mark on that.
Are you Etta, are you a Brene Brown fan?
I love her. You kidding me?
Oh,
I hit her and Adam Grant. Those are my two faves.
wonderful, wonderful writers and insightful people. One of the things that Brene Brown talks about is this I should probably shouldn't swear, but Brene Brown says that this is like the silly second act. Okay. In the silly second act, it's not silly, by the way. You can Google it out there. I don't want to give Etta the E rating on the podcast.
Oh my
Um,
God.
in the silly second act, the hero does everything but the thing that they need to do. They try to do everything but the thing. And ultimately, like, law firms are perpetually in the silly second act. Like, hey, you're on this journey, you're trying to do these things, but you're not doing the thing that gets you where you need to go. So step back, evaluate that, invest, and look, if you're a law firm owner, like this isn't touchy, feel good, woo woo, though it has those benefits. This is the thing that will turn you from unprofitable to wildly profitable.
Yeah, I call it the vacation effect, right? You know, when you go on vacation, you feel so free and you feel like,
Yeah.
relaxed and you're
Yeah.
having fun and you're just like de-stressing and your anxiety levels go lower. And it's just a beautiful feeling, right? And then, but how long did it take you to actually get on that vacation, right? Like the planning and the crossing of the calendars and who's going, who's not going, where are we going, how are we getting there, and all the things that were involved in this, vacation. But then after you went through all of that, after you found the money, you found the time, you did all the things, all of a sudden you're enjoying and reaping the vacation, right? So that's really what we're kind of telling you guys here. Like, enjoy your vacation. And it's not
Yep.
rocket science, like, Ryan said.
Right. It's not at all rocket science, but it requires a few things. It requires one, an investment of time and or money. Two, it requires working with people who know this process and know what it is that they're doing, experts in this field, right? So don't let like your Amazon Prime delivery driver train your paralegals. Like that won't be
Please
good. Um,
don't.
and it takes a commitment because some firms, they'll send, maybe the local TLA has a paralegal training seminar once every 2 years. Like that's not enough. Like it needs to be firm specific. It needs to be ongoing. It needs to be systematized. It needs to be organized, and it needs to be uh just a basic operation of the firm, an ongoing operation of the firm. So,
Absolutely.
if you're willing to um invest in that, um boy, there's almost no better return on your money.
Absolutely. And you'll see it. You'll see the numbers, change. You'll see the atmosphere, the environment when the team gets to know each other, which I'm always a firm believer of team building. I love team building exercises. We're actually going on we just announced it last week that we're doing a team building tour where we're going to go to all the main towns and actually provide those services to all the local firms just so that they can have a place to come in and really get to know each other and really understand what team building is about, right? Because it's so essential that your team actually knows each other, right? Because I call it the puzzle effect. When you start a puzzle and you are missing pieces, you really can't get the full picture, right? So, like when you are training, quote unquote, training your staff or providing them with something, that if they don't understand what's happening before or after or even during, they're not going to understand what their job is, right? They're only going to know what they know. And unfortunately, that's not going to help. If our intake person doesn't know how to properly prepare for litigation every single time, once you get to litigation, you're going to have issues. You're going to have red flags that you should have known about a year ago. You're going to have missing witnesses that you never got a statement for and now you can't find them. You're going to have experts that really
Yeah.
can't give you the testimony that they need because you're missing information, right? So your intake has to be just as strong as your litigation, just as strong as your settlement, just as strong as your trial. Like they all have to be the same.
Yep.
So any last words, any tips and tricks, any resources maybe that you have for the audience that we can kind of close with the episode?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing here is engage. Like, talk to Eda, talk to me, talk to somebody else who may be doing this. But like to me, I don't. We have Marissa, who was a fantastic. Like, we actually took our fantastic A-level paralegal and brought her into a new company to do training for other firms. That's where, as a law firm owner, I see such an opportunity. But really, the enemy out there isn't competing firms that do this, because there aren't very many people in this space. It is not doing it at all. And that is the challenge. So if you are a paralegal or a case manager and you're listening to this and you're going, yeah, 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 please play this episode for the powers that be. Just say, hey, can you put this on your calendar? Can you make time to listen to this? Because I think it can transform our firm. And if you're a law firm owner, believe me when I say that this makes all the difference. in the world to your team. And also, if you're a law firm owner, go out and read r/paralegal. Like, just type that in and understand and ask yourself, like, is that going on in my firm? Is that what they
Mm,
think? Is this the stress that they experience? And the answer is probably yes. It may not be your paralegals. It's all anonymous, but you're going to see a lot of gaps in your own systems if you're able to self-reflect at all. So please, if you're out there, uh, don't hesitate to take action on this. Evaluate your training. You get ultimately the results that you deserve in this business. And if you want more money, happier employees, happier clients, better reputation, this is the it's almost like asymmetric. Like you put $1 in, and it's almost like $100 comes out.
mm.
And you're spending it into marketing. Allocate a fraction of that into your training.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, you didn't open up a business to close shop. So this is a good
Nope.
avenue to take and invest.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being on the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. And until next time, until justice is served, we'll be here. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Eda.